I would actually argue women are far pickier when it comes to looks than men are. Y'all are way more picky and selective when it comes to looks than men.
Well, I don't want an ugly baby. You know?
I think
it kind of just makes sense.
No, but
it's
like,
attraction
for example,
you.
like if you look at, I would argue that like women are far more superficial too when it comes to looks, because a lot of the things that you guys care about when it comes to looks are totally out of men's control. For example, height, 100% out of men's control. And a lot of women here be sitting here wanting a guy who's 6 feet plus. Okay, that's 15% of men. Cool. You don't want a guy who's balding, most of you, especially if you're young. That's totally out of men's control if they start balding early. And then penis size, totally out of men's control. But y'all want a guy with a big dick. Not all of you, but the guys lacking in the bulge, a lot of women got a problem with that. Not all women, but... So y'all will judge men very harshly on things that are totally out of men's control. But the one thing that we judge women harshly on, weight, is 100% in your control. And also women judge men on that too, because there's plenty of fit women that would not be prepared to date a guy who's obese. So let's not kid that this is a one-directional thing, or when it comes to balding, height, and penis size, that's absolute. Men don't really discriminate. Like most men don't really care about a woman's height. So I would argue that women care far more about physical looks than men do.
Do you think, this is just like a random question, do you think that it's being more like judgmental, saying like, you know, like I don't want to date somebody that's overweight, or do you think it's more judgmental to be like, oh, I don't want to date somebody that's a virgin? Because that's not
a
fair
virgin
either.
That's not a virgin.
Yeah.
Wait, what's not fair?
That like people think that like, or you guys were saying that like a high value woman is a virgin.
She doesn't need to be a virgin, but that would add to her a potential woman being.
It's a bonus.
You need not be. Also, I don't like the term like high value male, high value woman. It's just such this like nebulous, vague term, and a lot of people like to claim I'm a high value male, and it comes off as like kind of braggy, and I'm an alpha male. That shit's braggy. I don't like that.
I'll say high quality.
Yeah.
I say quality.
But you think so? You're saying that it's unfair to want a woman who's a virgin?
No, I was just asking if you thought
oh,
like,
which one?
Yeah, because you thought that I was being like by me saying that that's unfair, that to call somebody or like to not want to date somebody because they're overweight. But I feel like, aren't you also being judgy by saying like, oh, I don't want to date somebody that's not a virgin?
Well, okay, that's not my personal view. It's not. I don't exclusively.
I wasn't like, that wasn't my personal view either of like wanting to date somebody that was obese. I was just saying like.
No, I know.
I just didn't think that those things
sort
were
of
fair.
Not totally understanding what you're saying. First off, I don't exclusively date women who are virgins, though I'm certainly not opposed to dating a woman who's a virgin. Would it be my preference? Yes. Am I going to get it? I suppose that depends on the woman. What I would argue when it comes to body count or promiscuity is the lower bodies, the better. In the same way that like the guy's bank account, the more zeros after his, in his bank account, the better. Be nice to date a millionaire. Might be nicer to date a billionaire. Whether you can get it or not, that's another thing. But I mean, I've dated women who are virgins, so yeah. But it's not like I have to have I'll only date virgin women.
Like
no,
an indispensable characteristic. It doesn't have to be that. Yeah.
But so are you saying that it's judgy to date, to want to or prefer a woman who is a virgin? Is that what you're saying? Or
yeah, like is that like one characteristic?
Is it judgy?
That makes her more meritable, or like makes her more high value?
It would make her more attractive, and yes, I think it would make her in the dating marketplace, I would say it makes her higher value.
So what's considered a high value? Like she has to be a virgin? And
no, she doesn't have to be a virgin. In the same way that a woman who's like a 10 out of 10 absolute beauty, like everyone would prefer to get the most optimal partner they can. Whether you can get it or not, that's a different question. But we all want we want to make the most optimal choices we can when it comes to who we date, who we have relationships with, who we sleep with, who we marry, who we have kids with.
Yeah, we have a preference for optimality. Yeah.
Like some women might say, well, for example, for you would date a guy who's 5'7", but it might be a bit more optimum for him to be 5'8", and it might be more optimum for him to be 5'9", 5'10", 5'11", 6 feet, 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", etc.
What would essentially maximize your attraction to that partner, just on a physical level. Because, of course, you can develop feelings for who he is as a person despite the fact that he's 5'7", and that can compensate for what he lacks in height. You know, he can be more attractive, and you can look at a 6'2" guy, your boyfriend 5'7", you'd be like, yeah, the 6'2" guy, he don't arouse me because I like everything about my 5'7" boyfriend. But just on a physical scale, we want to optimize our attraction to somebody, and typically those are physical characteristics. So it's like, I would prefer a guy who's 6'1". I would prefer a guy who makes six figures. I would prefer a guy who has a six-pack. If I don't get him, yeah, I'm malleable. I can maybe shift a little bit. But if it were up to me, if I could create the perfect guy, what would your perfect guy look like? And for men, if he could create the perfect woman, she'd probably be a virgin.
Mm-hmm.
That would, a woman who's if a guy had an option, let's say everything else is equal, but she's got a body count of 10 versus she's got a body count of 0, I think any sane man would prefer the virgin in that situation. You guys disagree on that? I mean, why would and I'm not particularly inclined to sleep with a girl just once or have a one-night stand with her, but even for a one-night stand, one-time casual encounter, I would always prefer to pick the girl who's a virgin over the girl who's slept with 50 dudes. Even when ostensibly the girl who slept with 50 men could give me a supposedly better sexual experience. As somebody who knows how to lead in the bedroom, I'll take the virgin every single time.
Then why are some men, falling in love with strippers and promiscuous women?
Probably.
I don't know if I would call that love.
Well, they build relationships with those women.
Because we have normalized this sort of degeneracy, and men don't realize, one, that these types of women typically do not make for a good long-term partner. Their interest in them may be purely short-term or purely sexual. A lot of men, you will probably heard it from men themselves, yeah, we'll sleep with that girl, but we'll never wife her up. So, but me personally, I wouldn't even want to have casual sex with a girl that I couldn't
potentially
oh, she's slutty, so I'm just going to sleep with her. No, I don't even want anything to do with a woman who's slutty or who has a high body count, even if she's otherwise down to engage in easy sex. That doesn't interest me. I want to, if I sleep with a girl, I want there to be a continuity. So there's absolutely I don't want to get with a girl who's slutty or whatever.
Okay.
I have a question that correlates to that.
Yeah.
Because you just reminded me of Sadia Khan. I don't know if you guys know her. She's a psychologist that does podcasts.
She used to follow me.
We're going to get her on the show.
Yeah, she used to follow me.
We're going to get her on the show,
We had a little falling out.
I really value her and all her points that she has to say. And it reminded me of this one podcast where she's men claim they want a high value woman and a good woman, but all that they're really doing is spending time with promiscuous women, following Instagram models, favoring that. So how do you guys as males explain that? Men question. Wanting a good woman, like she's saying, but then ending up with promiscuous ones or following Instagram models, engaging in promiscuous activity yourself.
That's a good question.
I'll answer.
I'll go after.
The reason why is because we're still very visual creatures. We're still emotional beings. We say all of these things on podcasts. When we're actually out there in the real world, when we're scrolling social media, when we see these women, that natural innate reaction is, oh, she's attractive. These men aren't thinking about what her wife qualities are like, what her motherly qualities are like. And then a lot of these guys who sleep with these women they roll in the same circles. They engage in a lot of degenerate behavior themselves. These are not the cream of the crop men in terms of integrity and values and things like that. So they're just as compromised as the women that they're getting with, these women that they're sleeping with. And that's essentially what it boils down to. See, a lot of these guys, they talk about these things as if they're pure themselves, and they're simply not. It's the visceral response to seeing a woman that you find attractive physically, whether on social media or in the strip club or whatever the case may be, whether she got shit done to her ass or titties, whatever. It's the attraction, and then it's the fact that these men aren't the cream of the crop, high value men that they actually claim to be in terms of their character.
Yeah. Q, and I just want to add on to that. Q absolutely hit the nail on the head. A lot of these dudes are absolutely degenerate, and granted, men are very visual creatures, and I think some of the issues that we're seeing in society, certainly, I mean, we have agency and we have autonomy, so we have some blame on the individual level, but like, you know, these social media platforms are very, I mean, there's algorithms, and, you know, there's something to be said of, you know, we have not evolved to be able to handle this sort of information and stimulation overload. And I mean, try reading a book after you've just scrolled on TikTok for 2 hours. I mean, we're rewiring our brains to get these dopamine hits. And I agree with you what you said earlier. Porn is not good for men. And me personally, I'd recommend this to other men. Like, I have my personal Instagram. I'm not really big on social media. If I wasn't doing what I was doing, like this YouTube shit, I probably wouldn't even have Instagram, Twitter, any of this shit. I'm just doing it for my business. But I don't follow any chicks. I'm not like liking chicks' photos. I think it's a big fucking L as a dude to be liking random chicks' photos, like Instagram models, whatever. If like, what? It's just, to me, that's just weird. So I follow one account on my personal Instagram. That's my business account. That's it. I'm not checking out chicks' photos. Like, I'm not looking at photos. If I'm in a relationship, granted, if I'm single, sometimes, listen, you need a release if it's whatever. But in a relationship, I don't watch porn ever. Like, I'm gonna get my sexual satisfaction just from my girl. Don't watch porn. Plus, it fucks you up too if you're watching porn, especially in a relationship. Yeah, so I think men should definitely try to pull back from porn. And certainly, bro, it's fucking simp shit to be liking girls' photos. They already get, like, come on, bro, you're already gassing them up enough. Simps have destroyed dating. You're gassing up these chicks. So, yeah, I don't think dudes should be liking and following all these girls. So, yeah.
I agree, unless they actually have like a real life chance of
Yes.
being with that girl. This is the point.
But they don't.
And it makes
They
the girl
don't.
look dumb.
They don't is the thing. So, yeah. Did you have anything else, Q? Or
No, you good.
Okay.
You said